Recently this year, on the 27th of August, I returned from a pretty epic adventure of flying around the world solo to break the world record as the youngest person to ever do it. It was a crazy dream. It was something that was really not expected by my family, and it's a trip that really blew my expectations right out of the water, both in the really good regards, because I absolutely loved it at times, but at times it was more challenging than I ever thought it would be. And that's something that you would expect of a journey like this, but it never ceases to amaze me what actually happened. It was a journey that I did not just because I wanted to fly around the world or just because I wanted to have a world record, but because I wanted to send a message, particularly to young people, that it doesn't take an extraordinary person to undertake an extraordinary achievement. I'm a normal teenager from here on the Sunshine Coast, and over 2.5 years, I planned this journey to become the youngest person to fly around the world. And you go, well, Lockie, why would you do that? And it all started in the warm October night of 2013 when I was sitting on the lounge with my mother in our house at the end of the cul-de-sac, and onto the television came an episode called Flying Ryan. Now in 2013, Ryan Campbell became the youngest person to fly around the world solo, and I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. I've started flying and I really love aviation. I'm going to do it. So I turned to Mum on the lounge and I say, Mum, I'm going to fly around the world. And she goes, okay, Lockie, in a way that only mothers can do without seeming condescending. And I said, you watch me. And it wasn't that Mum didn't believe in me or didn't think I was capable of achieving this. It's just that's a crazy thing for a 15-year-old to say. And the thing is, we normally leave crazy to other people. We just want to be normal people. But I said, no, I'm going to embrace the crazy. And you think, that's a bit of a funny saying, Lockie, and it was. And so that's exactly what I did. I wanted to embrace the crazy, and I wanted to prove, again, it doesn't take extraordinary people to undertake extraordinary achievements. It takes someone with a crazy dream and the tenacity to follow it through to be a world changer. Now, this trip at times, it wasn't easy, and there were many setbacks even at the beginning of the flight. These 3 photos were taken while I was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean between American Samoa and Christmas Island in the Kiribati Island group. It was a time when I was in some pretty bad storms. I'd lost all communications on radios, satellite phone, you name it. I didn't have it. I was running out of fuel in my wing tanks because my main tank wouldn't transfer the fuel, and I was feeling pretty stressed. But I know I would have been feeling even more stressed if I hadn't have had a setback earlier on in the trip. See, I like to say setbacks are the foundations to success, because every time that we think we have a failure, we can really see it as a win, because we can learn from it and we're going to know what to do next time if we come into this situation again. So in preparation for my flight around the world, I decided, let's start smaller. Let's try flying around Australia first. And so I did that. And on this journey, I covered a lot of different places. I flew from the Sunshine Coast out to Alice Springs, and I started heading south. And on the 3rd day, I was going to fly from Bendigo across the Bass Strait to Tasmania, and then fly back again. The weather wasn't looking too crash hot. So I took off. The weather was okay for a while until I reached the north coast of Tasmania, and when I hit there, I hit a big band of storms. Now, when I say a big band of storms, I mean there was no way for me to really go around them. I had to go pretty much through them. Now, I timed it as best I could. I went around and I clipped the edge of one storm, and as I entered this storm, it started to get pretty bumpy. When I say pretty bumpy, I mean to the point where I lost alternators in the aircraft, I lost the autopilot, my engine instruments, the outside air temperature gauge, and it got quite uncomfortable to the point where I was in complete cloud flying off a little instrument called the artificial horizon. Now, while I was in this situation, I was thinking, what's causing all my instruments to drop out? Why am I in this scary situation when the aircraft should be able to handle it? When I eventually landed the aircraft in Tasmania, it was pretty windy. There were jets that were having second attempts at it. I managed to get a lucky break and cop it when the wind sort of dropped down to about 65 kilometres an hour. And I got out of the plane and I started ringing engineers. I said, what's happening? Why is my plane losing all these things? It shouldn't be losing instruments. And they said to me, you've had a build-up of static electricity in the aircraft and you need to discharge it. And that's what happened when you got the refueling truck to touch it here in Tasmania. So I said, okay, that's all right. How can I fix it in flight if it happens again? And they said to me, okay, well, you just pull a circuit breaker, you do this and this and this, and you'll reset that. I thought, great. So now when I got into this situation, it's now about a year later. I'm in the Pacific Ocean. I'm on my 3rd flight of the journey. I lose my instruments again. This time it's a bit more serious. I'm further away. I don't have air traffic control right there. I've lost my communications. But I thought back and I think, hang on, I had that setback and I had that failure of my equipment ago when I was in Tasmania. Thank you. And so I decided I would apply the knowledge that I had, and I did that, popped the circuit breaker, and I managed to get that back. It was a setback that had turned into a success for me, and it was a setback that was the foundation for my success. Look, this is not the only thing we need to remember when we're striving to achieve our goals. We need to embrace the crazy, I said. We need to embrace those setbacks as they're the foundations to our success. But the third thing I want to talk about today is the fact that we have a responsibility for change. And it's a little concept that I like to call social infectivity. Who here can relate that when they see one person succeed or do something pretty cool or crazy, we think, maybe I can do something just like that too? Will anyone agree? Yeah. That's what I like to call social infectivity. If we can motivate someone else to achieve something that we wanted to achieve or that we have achieved, then I think we're doing well. Because if you look back through history, there have been so many times where other people have achieved incredible things and inspired a wave of change. Some of those people didn't get it right the first time. For example, Dr. Seuss. He went through 26 publishers before he found someone who would actually publish his book. He went on to sell 600 million copies and have a $75 million net worth. Our second one is Mr. Henry Ford. He's there on the bottom right. He went bankrupt twice before he actually managed to get his company off the ground, the Ford Motor Company. His net worth, if he was still alive now, is $199 billion. These people embraced the setbacks and they learnt from their setbacks and saw them as the foundations to their success. But I don't like to see money as a true measure of their value. I like to see what they did for society and the people they motivated as more of a measure of their value. And if you have a look, you can look through history and you can see some pretty cool achievers who embraced their dreams, embraced the crazy dreams that they had, who were motivated by these people. So I want to put a challenge out to you, because I think it's our responsibility, and I set out to hopefully lead the way with this flight around the world to show other young people that anything is possible, even if it seems crazy at first, if we can embrace the crazy, if we can learn from our setbacks, and if we can socially infect other people to achieve more. So my challenge to you is to embrace the crazy. Don't be afraid of those dreams, because these amazing achievements we've seen from people in the past and these world changes all started because someone had a crazy dream and the tenacity to follow it through. Imagine if we could see a generation of change, a generation where we all embrace the crazy. We band together and we collate our ideas, work together to not be known as Generation Z or whatever our generation is now known as, but instead history can look back and say, hey, that was the generation of change. These people came together, they embraced their crazy ideas. As we've heard all night tonight, we've had some pretty incredible talks and some pretty incredible programs that have been started in this school. Imagine if we could implement that not only Australia-wide but nationwide and start this social infectivity movement to see other young people getting out there and actually embracing their crazy dreams. Let's see where this world can go. Thank you.